I am Amber Blodgett. I'm with the UVM Extension Northwest Crops and Soils team. I'm a dairy research specialist, so the work that I do is to support dairy production in the state of Vermont. A project that I'm working on right now and really excited about is looking at approaches to hayland renovation so that dairy farmers can grow more of their own nutrients efficiently and grow those nutrients that cows need to produce milk. This will help farmers reduce their input costs and become more efficient and sustainable long term. So the project that we're working on is to track renovated hay fields year to year in terms of their yield and like their tonnage of yield and also the quality of nutrients that they produce. So we will look at the actual yields for each cut across 2 years, and we'll also sample each field for quality metrics including protein and digestible fiber and digestibility, so that we can have a better understanding of how the improvements in the fields that farmers are harvesting can translate into dietary and nutritional improvements for dairy cattle to support both high production of milk and milk yield and components. So this field was part of a renovation project that happened in the spring of 2025, and it was fully reseeded with a mix that includes a fair amount of alfalfa, red clover and white clover, as well as some orchard grass and tall fescue and meadow fescue. And the reason that we consider this a really high quality, high producing field is because it has a lot of species diversity. So we have lots of legumes and some grass as well, and the legumes are able to fix nitrogen, which essentially feeds the grass. From a water quality perspective, that's really key in reducing the amount of nutrients that we need to bring onto the farm, and it allows the field to cycle the nutrients through and become more efficient rather than relying on purchased inputs of fertilizer. So less potential for runoff. The other thing that we're looking at here is lots of good ground cover. So not a lot of bare spots in this renovated field. That means that the temperature of the actual soil underneath is a little bit cooler, which supports biological activity. Again, we're just really strengthening our soil structure and supporting soil health to grow these crops. Different plants all have a little bit different root structure. So when we have multiple kinds of root structures working together, then we're also just strengthening the resilience of the crop because it is building more aggregate stability within the soil. So these fields are going to be more resilient to either drought or weather events like a lot of rain. From an animal perspective, for dairy operations, we're looking at improving forage quality as a way to reduce the amount of concentrate or grain that a farm needs to buy in. Specifically, protein and digestible fiber are going to support both milk production and component production, so butterfat and protein yield for these herds. Now, forage quality for livestock is a little bit different because it is also dependent on both the harvesting conditions, the plant stage of maturity, and our storage facilities, right? So it's not just the fact that we have this great species diversity that is growing a ton of protein and digestible fiber, but also when we are able to harvest at the right stage of maturity, we can provide those essential amino acids, the protein building blocks that cows really need to support component production, and also that digestible fiber, which is what ruminants survive on, right? Like the rumen is built on the rumen functions because there's microbes that can digest fiber and turn it into milk. That is just to say, if we can make all the nutrient cycles that are involved in growing forage and supporting soil health, as well as supporting dairy production in terms of milk, if we can make all of those nutrient cycles more efficient, it's going to minimize a farm's reliance on purchased inputs, whether that is fertilizer or soil amendments or grains or concentrates or specific products like nutritional products like amino acid products. If we can rely on those less, it's going to make the whole system both more efficient and more productive and more economically viable in the long term. So in this plot, we've got some alfalfa, some white clover, some red clover, and a nice stand of orchard grass. And orchard grass grows really well in our area and provides a lot of, it's a real dense bunch of grass. So it's pretty high yielding, which is great for farmers, right? Like they want to be out here getting a bunch of feed, and orchard grass is where it's at. But orchard grass is another thing that it needs to be harvested at the right stage of maturity, otherwise it turns into undigestible fiber, right? Which isn't quite as good quality for cows. When is it okay to feed lower quality forages? And really that's different, either species or different stages of production or animals with different biological needs. So a cow who's not lactating, a cow that's dry, doesn't need the same nutrients as a cow that is producing a whole bunch of milk. She needs enough to maintain her body condition and also probably grow a fetus. So her nutritional needs are a little bit different, and she might do fine on a slightly lower quality forage. Same with young stock. They have different nutritional and biological needs than a high producing dairy cow. Where that gets tricky is not a lot of farms have the ability to segregate their feed to segregate the high quality forage from the low quality forage. Usually, they're going through and they're going to mow everything that's ready to mow, right? They're going to mow this field, and they're going to mow the field that we're going to look at next, which is a lower quality feed, and that's all going to go in the same bunk. So it's all going to get fed out together. If we can improve the amount of higher quality forage that's available, the number of acres of high quality forage, then it's going to improve the overall mass of forage that farm has available to them, so that they're not in a position where they're stuck with some really poor quality forage that has to be fed but doesn't meet the biological and production needs of their animals. The biggest challenge is weather, right? We want to be renovating, we really need to be renovating these fields when there's enough moisture and enough sunlight to allow the plants to grow. Another common challenge is weed pressure. So if the weed seeds still exist in the field, they can really kind of threaten or slow down the progress of the new seed. And also just management of these renovated fields. We really want to make sure that we're not mowing them too short, because we want the growing points of the new plants to be able to continue to grow even after we've harvested it, so that these plants will live for as long as possible. Some of the approaches that we use to renovating hayland can include completely clear seeding. There's use of tillage or chemicals to suppress the weeds, and starting like fresh with a new seed. You could also mow really short later in the season and drill the seed in. Sometimes we also will use a nurse crop, like a small grain, to help get that new seeding established and kind of suppress the weed growth. But again, like, we definitely need Mother Nature to cooperate. We need the right amount of moisture and the right amount of sunlight for that to be successful. This field has significantly less plant diversity in it, and the diversity that you see above ground reflects what you see below ground, right? So the soil biology that is doing all the work to transfer the sunlight that the plants are absorbing into nutrients that can cycle through the plants is going to be less diversified in hayland that has a less diverse species or plant groups, just as a function of different plant types. We're also going to see less diversity in the root systems, so therefore, like, this type of field might be less adaptive in drought or extreme rain or weather events as climate changes. Also, since there's fewer legumes here, this field is going to need more nitrogen as a fertilizer input to support growth for the yield and quality of nutrients that it produces. So we're going to be bringing in more nutrients, purchased nutrients, rather than supplying them from plants and soil itself. Another thing we often see in fields that are lower quality and have less desirable species is more prevalence of weeds, which just do not have the nutritional quality that to support livestock production that we would need to see to make them both profitable and productive and good sources of nutrients for production livestock. This field was managed the same as the high quality field, and you can see, like, the yield is just significantly less here. So this land is less productive. Another consideration when folks are considering renovating their hayland is to make sure they have up-to-date soil samples so that the pH and the fertility of the soil is conducive to growing a new crop. If you look down, there's clearly more bare soil showing, and on a day like today when it's sunny and hot, that means the soil temperature is going to be higher, which again is really going to affect how much of the biological species, all the biology that's working in the soil doesn't necessarily love that high temperature. So things like earthworms and microbes and bacteria and fungi just aren't going to be as prevalent in a hot soil temperature as they would be if there was a good canopy of a diverse species of forages.